So as I sit at my desk looking out my window at a almost whiteout snow conditions, happy spring everybody, and welcome to the Sustainable Materials Management webinar series, a joint effort between the National Recycling Coalition and the Pennsylvania Recycling Market Center. I'm Wayne Bowen, I'm the Program Manager for the Recycling Market Center and will serve as your moderator today. Before we get started with the presentation, we would like to extend a special thanks to Bob Hollis of the Mobius Network for providing the webinar management software for this series. Today's webinar topic is paper shipping sack recycling. I will introduce Brian Hawkinson and Dick Storat, our presenters, in a moment. Following their presentations, we will conduct a question and answer session. If you have a question or comment, please use the GoToWebinar dialog box located in the control panel on your screen. You may also use the dialog box to request assistance if you're experiencing technical difficulties during the webinar. Please note that an edited version of this webinar will be made available for viewing via YouTube links on both the National Recycling Coalition and Pennsylvania Recycling Market Center websites. The presentation slides can also be obtained using the handout upload feature on your webinar control panel. And now I'd like to introduce our presenters. Brian Hawkinson is Executive Director of Recover Fiber at the American Forest and Paper Association, where he manages issues and programs to promote increased paper recovery for recycling. Before joining AF&PA, he held leadership positions with Hawkinson Group, LLC, DDC Advocacy, Public Affairs Council, and the United Way of America. Brian is a former adjunct faculty member of the George Washington University's Graduate School of Political Management and a past member of the Board of Directors of the National Recycling Coalition. Brian holds a BBA from James Madison University and an MBA from Pamplin College of Business at Virginia Tech. Okay, Brian, it's all yours.
Thanks very much, Wayne. And very much appreciate the opportunity to meet with you all today and talk about recycling multi-wall paper shipping sacks. Can we go to the next slide so I can share a little bit about the American Forest and Paper Association? Many of you already know AF&PA, and for those of you who may not, we are the National Trade Association for the U.S. forest products industry. And AF&PA serves to advance sustainable U.S. paper, pulp, packaging, tissue, and wood products manufacturing industry through fact-based public policy and marketplace advocacy. Our member companies make products that are essential for everyday life, from renewable and recyclable resources. And our member companies are committed to continuous improvement through the industry's sustainability initiative, Better Practices, Better Planet 2020. The forest products industry accounts for approximately 4% of the total U.S. manufacturing GDP, makes more than $200 billion in products annually, and employs about 900,000 men and women in the U.S. Go to the next slide, please. A little bit more about the industry's sustainability record. I had mentioned the Better Practices, Better Planet 2020 sustainability goals. This is an initiative that builds on the industry's sustainability legacy. It was launched in 2011 and has got 6 main goals. Those goals to improve performance cut across the entire value chain, from sourcing to manufacturing to recovery for recycling. And you'll notice the first goal is about paper recycling. Our goal there is to exceed 70% recovery by 2020. And in 2016, the paper recovery rate was 67.2%. So we're getting close, but we know that we've got more work to do to get there. Can we go to the next slide? Thanks. This chart shows the annual paper recovery rates in blue, plotted against the recovery trend line. Notice the upward slope of the trend line and how the industry has promoted increased recovery from about 33.5% rate in 1990 to 67.2% in 2016. And you'll see that even as there are some ups and downs in the trend line, some dots above the trend, some below, overall the shape of the trend line is upward slope. Can we go to the next one? Thanks. far right on this, you'll see the industry's recovery goal. We are shooting to exceed 70% recovery for recycling by 2020. And we realize that getting there is going to require getting additional fiber from new sources. And unlined multi-wall paper shipping sacks represent an important new source of that fiber. U.S. paperboard mills are already recycling some multi-wall sacks, but are interested in getting more to supplement the corrugated that they're getting in their furnish. In this effort, and the desire to get more material to use in manufacturing, what's been missing was an organized effort to raise awareness and promote recovery. Can we go to the next slide? And this is where our partnership with PSSMA, the Paper Shipping Sack Manufacturers Association, got kicked off. In about 2015, we decided it would be useful to really focus some attention and some effort on increasing the recovery of paper multi-wall shipping sacks as part of PSSMA's mission and as part of AF&PA's overall work to promote increased recovery of paper for recycling. AF&PA promotes increased recovery by raising awareness about the importance of paper recycling, creating public-private partnerships to help foster the infrastructure and the capability to increase recovery, educates key stakeholders about the success of the voluntary paper recovery system. We provide tools and resources to help communities, businesses, and schools either start or improve the paper recycling programs they've got in their organizations. We also work to promote increased recovery of targeted materials, which is where the work that we're doing with PSSMA on the multi-wall paper shipping sacks project comes into play. Dick will tell you more about that. And before I drop, just wanted to thank NRC and the Pennsylvania Recycling Market Center again for hosting the webinar and helping us broaden the message to you all and to others in the paper recycling industry about this great opportunity to increase paper recovery. Thanks.
All right, thank you, Brian. Our next presenter is Dick Storat. He's the founder and president of RSA Inc., a provider of management and economic consulting services to the forest products industry. He is past president and the current secretary/treasurer of the Paper Shipping Sack Manufacturers Association. He also publishes Scoring Boxes, a monthly newsletter on the conditions in the U.S. containerboard and corrugated industry. Prior to establishing this consulting firm, Mr. Storat was an officer of Gaylord Container Corporation, where he served as vice president, corporate affairs, and chief information officer. Mr. Storat previously served in the American Forest and Paper Association as the forest products industry's chief economist. He also became recognized as an expert on economic factors affecting the industry and on industry statistics. He managed the industry's statistical and economic analysis programs and spoke regularly to Wall Street, the media, and business groups on industry, business, and economic conditions. Mr. Storat retired from the U.S. Army with the rank of Major General after more than 38 years of active service and reserve service. He saw combat duty in Vietnam and during Desert Storm. Mr. Storat graduated from West Point and earned a Master of Science in Nuclear Engineering and at MIT as an MBA and an MBA at Lehigh University. Okay, Dick, we're turning over to you.
Thank you very much, Wayne. Let me start by thanking you also for having us on this webinar today. PSSMA is the Paper Shipping Sack Manufacturers Association, and this group represents about 90% of the multi-wall shipping sacks made in the U.S. and is supported by over 50 domestic and international associate members, suppliers of goods and services to our industry. We want to start off with what are paper shipping sacks. They're really a cost-effective and sustainable form of packaging. They're lightweight, they conform to the contents, there's no wasted space, and saves on trucking costs and freight costs and emissions. It's made from a renewable waste resource, and as we're going to talk today, contains a significant recyclable component. Each year, paper shipping sacks consume about 475,000 tons of paper, and from that make and ship to various users 3.5 billion sacks each year. Primarily in the U.S., they're used to transport food and agricultural products, as well as construction and some industrial commodities as well. But we're going to focus on the food and agricultural sector here today. Many of the shipping sacks are recyclable. It turns out that only a third of them contain plastic films or liners, which for most mills here, almost all mills, makes them not recyclable. But 40% of them are unlined, and they're used to package food ingredients, and that's the big target that we're looking at. When they're shaken clean, they're really free of unrecyclable contamination, and most mills have said they can accept them and look to accept them commingled with the old corrugated or OCC. Other unlined sacks, when shaken clean, are possibly recyclable, but the issue is often the contamination. Unrecyclable materials like cement or chemicals, even if in small quantities remaining in the sacks, provide problems for the mills in managing the recycling operation. So it is possible that the local paper recycler and the consuming mill can have an arrangement where they may be able to recycle others, and that's really something that must be determined in each and every case. Sometimes the lined sacks that have the PE film or the liner are baled separately and exported to countries with low labor costs, India being one of them, where they can be hand separated and used in the smaller scale pulping operations in countries like India. So some, but not all, are baled for export. Each year, the food industry uses 1.5 billion recyclable sacks. So that's the target that we're looking to get. The mills are making it easier, as Brian said, to recycle these sacks. The paper, incidentally, is for these sacks is often, I would say in the United States, usually made on the same machines as is the liner board that's used in the manufacture of corrugated cardboard boxes. So the fiber that's there is it's a long and strong fiber, which gives the sacks its great strength and tear resistance, and that's very helpful in the mix of recycling when they're commingled with old corrugated containers. The issue is, as always, is cleanliness, and that's the issue that needs to be addressed. Why focus on the food industry? Well, it's simple. They just use a lot more unlined sacks than any other segment, and flour and sugar within that are the dominant commodities, and bakeries are probably the largest single sector within the food industry that we're targeting. We did survey food processors at the beginning of this program, and we learned that more than half of them use food ingredients in sacks. And again, flour, sugar, but also powdered milk are frequently mentioned. We learned that more than 40%, 43% sent their sacks to the landfill, but at the same time, we learned, as we expected, that the vast majority, 85% in the case of our survey, recycle OCC, but less than 40% of those that recycle OCC were aware that unlined sacks can be recycled along with the old corrugated containers. And almost all of them agreed that printing a recyclable logo on qualifying sacks would help promote recycling and identify the sacks that could be recycled. So the industry campaign was put together with a goal of promoting recovery of paper shipping sack. And as we've mentioned and Brian's mentioned, it's because the fiber is needed for recycled paper products. As the OCC recovery rate has reached north of 90%, it's increasingly difficult at the margin to find additional corrugated that can be included in the stream. So that's where the fiber from multiwall sacks could come in. It's a high quality, high value fiber. It's long, it has strength properties that are valuable for recycling, and of course it diverts waste from landfill and helps us all in moving a little bit closer towards sustainability. The campaign strategy is to focus on those sacks that are easiest to recycle, and that's the unlined one used for food products. The key audiences that we're targeting, of course, are the businesses that receive food products and ingredients in paper shipping sacks. That's bakeries, industrial kitchens, food processors, and even restaurants. A second target is businesses that pack and ship the food products in sacks, and we encourage them to work with their customers to increase the levels of recycling. And finally, the one that I've highlighted here is the one we're talking about today, and that is engaging with the recycling community so that we can get the word out that this is a source of fiber that the mills desire and that it's easy to recycle. The message is that the sacks meeting the criteria can be recovered in the same stream, unlined and used for food products. The benefits are at least reduced waste disposal costs. It might be even some additional revenue depending on how the situation is arranged with a local paper recycler. And we're trying to encourage the printing of the recycling symbol on sacks to promote awareness. This is the symbol, and as you can see, we've designed it to show the commingling of corrugated and food paper shipping sacks. That allows OCC to be collected in the biggest single stream of recycling going on in the U.S. in the paper industry. So we have established criteria for using the on-package symbols, and they're on our website, www.pssma.org, and it basically limits the use of them to unlined food ingredient sacks. Our suppliers of sacks each have taken on the responsibility of approving those uses and maintaining a roster of clients that are using the symbol so that we can assure the integrity of its use. Promoting the message is the emphasis of our campaign, and you can see we've ticked off here about a dozen or so of the various methods that we're using, articles in trade publications, social media, videos. We've got liaison with paper mills. We coordinate with key trade associations, and we do press releases as there's newsworthy stuff. Our enhanced website is really the place to go to learn about recycling paper shipping sack. There you'll find guidelines. You'll find something that helps you calculate a first estimate of what the revenue or the avoided cost might be, and matters such as that. One item I want to highlight before leaving this slide is that in order to facilitate getting these programs started, we have retained a subject matter expert who has had about 4 decades of experience in the recovered paper industry, and he is available and has been very active in consulting and engaging with the folks that want to start making a recycling program happen, either with their OCC or separately. So that's Johnny Gold, and he has a long list of achievements in the industry and great experience to help anybody that you might be able to identify. Here's an example of a video that we put together early on with a bakery, Bake and Joy, showing how they shake their sacks clean, include them with the corrugated and recycling, and send them off. That's on YouTube, one of the initiatives to try and get people more aware that they can recycle. And the fellow that you see on the inset there is Johnny Gold, and that's his video showing how you can identify a paper sack without film or lining from those with lining. It's really a tear test, and in addition to the shininess of the film, there is a resistance to tear that you wouldn't find on a totally unlined sack. We've been in Recycling Today a few times. This is the article that was in December of 2016. We do a quarterly newsletter. We'd be glad to add any of you to the newsletter. Just get in contact with us, and we'd be glad to do that. We, as I mentioned before, have put a website together that emphasizes recycling and gets the word out and helps people understand just how to do it. Here's our challenge to get down to sort of the basics of how we can work together. Our challenge here is how do we reach the recycling decision makers in the food industry? That's these folks in the middle here who are the users and the potential initiators of recycling. But they sit in the middle of a system. Let's start with the paper recycler who provides paper to the mill, and that mill then provides the paper supplier who sends it to the sack manufacturer. That's the PSSMA members. We make the sacks, we sell the sacks. They're usually purchased by someone who fills the sacks with ingredients, and that's usually somebody who's different than the person that empties them. The guy who puts the flour in the sack is most often not the same company or fellow that uses the flour to make baked goods or something such as that. And in fact, a lot of these are shipped to food ingredient distributors that go through then a wide range of restaurants and institutional kitchens and smaller users. So this has been a difficult part, and so it's reaching this food ingredient user that's really the issue for us. And here's where we think we can work together and hope that we can, is that you are the one piece of the supply chain, the paper recycler, who is in touch and has commercial operations with the food ingredient user and recycler. This is the one connection that can start the process going. If you just back up here on the top, if you're the sack manufacturer and the seller, you don't often have a relationship with the food ingredient user. Your relationship is with those people who purchase and fill the bags. So even though the paper shipping sack members are promoting this and we're providing them with materials that can help the bag purchaser and filler to communicate through these dashed lines back to the food ingredient distributor, you can see it's not directly in the supply chain. There's an interruption there, and it's difficult to reach this person. But down here, the paper recycler does have that, and so that's one of the reasons that we are reaching out to the paper recycling community to help us start this process, getting the paper sorted and delivered to the procurement operations in the mill, that they can then put it through the recycling process and include it in the papers that go to other suppliers. So that, in short, is the question of how can we work together? How can we work together to bring the benefits of recycling paper shipping sacks to more food ingredient users and the paper recyclers, people like yourselves and your colleagues that serve them? And on that note, Wayne, let me pause and see if you want to take some discussion or questions.
No, keep going, Dick.
Okay. Just for more information, we're on Twitter and we're on our website. And lastly, Brian and myself have our contact information listed here, so that can be available to you. So that concludes our presentation, Wayne.
All right. Thank you. You might want to keep the contact information up for the audience. So now we're gonna, well, first of all, thank you, Dick and Brian, for those great presentations, very informative. So now we're gonna field some questions for the presenters. If you have a question or a comment, please enter them on the GoToWebinar dialog box. And I did note that the handouts somehow did not get uploaded to the dialog, to the handout box here. So I apologize for that. I will email every attendee a copy of the handout notes, but plus this is recorded, so it can be viewed via YouTube links. So we're getting looking for some questions right now. While we're waiting for that, I do have a question on, have you got any feedback from any processors of the paper, for example, a single stream material recovery facility, if they've experienced any issues with the handling of paper sacks in a single stream setting versus a homogeneous stream of paper that comes in right and gets baled immediately. I know single stream does cause issues with glass and plastics being mixed in with paper. So I just wondered if there's anything that you've heard.
Ryan, are you on? You could take the first crack at that if you'd like.
Yeah, I am on, and thanks for the question, Wayne. I have not heard back from members who operate MRFs about any problems processing this in their facilities. Dick, I don't know if any of the work that Johnny has done with the recyclers has turned up anything on their end, but I have not heard from our members that it's problematic in a MRF.
Yeah, most of our work has been with commercial side operations, and there we've not had that issue. As far as coming through the single stream MRFs, it has the potential for contamination of lined and unlined. So it's not a piece of it that we're promoting going through that way. For instance, pet food bags are often multi-wall sacks, but they have a lining that generally makes them difficult to recycle, and they have the potential to have contamination in them. So the mills in our discussion as to their willingness to accept the OCC commingled with, or the multi-wall commingled with the OCC are looking at the commercial streams for that primarily. And I'm not an expert on being able to handle what sort of separation might happen at a MRF to make the OCC or make the multi-wall sacks, to separate the ones that are recyclable from those that are not.
Okay. Dick, I noticed your note here on your email is not correct. Also, there's an extra digit on your phone number. So could you clarify both your phone number and your email contact?
Okay. Let's see. The phone number is 282-6845. So that 2825 is wrong. It's 282-6845, and it's let's see. It's dick.storat@pssma.org.
All right, thank you. Okay, do we have any more questions? Okay, I don't think we're going to get any questions for this. So, if there are any follow-ups, well, here's a comment. Hold on. This is a comment. It's great, so that many of these bags are recyclable, but I wouldn't add them to our recycling program unless the recycling symbol is on the bag. You need a very simple message to the consumers.
Okay, that's helpful.
Any more questions or comments? So if there are any follow-up questions later, there's Dick's and Brian's emails and phone numbers. If you want to follow up with a phone call or email, feel free. So we're going to wrap it up. Again, this webinar, like all the webinars in this series, has been recorded and will be made available via YouTube links on both the National Recycling Coalition and Recycling Market Center websites. We hope you'll join us for next month's webinar. Please visit the NRC and RMC websites for scheduled dates. Thank you again, Dick, and thank you, Brian, for taking the time out to make these presentations. So,
thank you. Brian.
All right. Have a great day, everybody.
See you.